All right, part three-ish. Okay, you can see I've added an extra guitar in there. My JS32. Yeah, he's in there. And we'll be talking about them. I forget where I ended up. Anyway, I know I've talked about, like picking a guitar, and I've done other videos on that where, you know, uh, when you're looking for the tone or whatever. Okay, so I'll go with what Spectre Studios goes with the speaker being, like the biggest probably effect on your tone. And he's right. He's 100% right. And I discovered that in an AB, the simplest AB, test in the music store the day I bought that, where I was sure I was going to buy a Marshall stack and, like a cabinet, whatever. And just by plugging in the same Marshall head from that cabinet into this cabinet, it was just like, the Marshall sounded okay. It had the Celestion 75 watt in there, and they sounded okay. I think that's what they call the greenbacks, right? Those speakers. But when I plug this in, like the heavens part, like it parted the ocean for, like Moses parted the ocean with this thing. It was night and day how much better that the heads that I plugged through this in the music store, how much better it sounded going through this. It was just night and day. This cabinet was tighter sounding. It had more headroom. If you don't know what that stuff is, don't worry about it for now. But it was just a better sounding cabinet. And I've been on stage with a lot of different cabinets, Laney's, Marshalls, you name it. TCMs, what else? Randall's. Randall's will give Mesa Boogies run for money. They are good. They were a good sounding cabinet. I've been on stage with, like a lot of the, Fender stuff and all that. And the only thing that kind of keeps up with the Mesa Boogie is a Mesa Boogie, right? So you pay for it, but not everybody can afford that. And I get that. Some people have to go with the cheaper stuff, but can you get a good setup for cheap? Right? Or do you have to go with, the next thing, endless gear buying? Now, with a guy with this many guitars and, 6 violins and what is it, 9, 10 guitars in this room and a bass and a mandolin. Okay, you would say, oh, you're just obsessively buying gear. No, I'm not. Each one of these guitars I bought for specific reasons. And I might not hang on to these guitars forever. Now, the guy that was making his video, he said he had owned about 200 guitars. And I thought I had a problem. I've only had about 54 in my life. And there's a lot of good guitars that I got rid of. My double neck, for example, my Epiphone double neck. Great guitar. Very professional guitar. Oh yeah, but it's an Epiphone. No, trust me, it had good pickups in it. It had, it was an awesome sounding guitar. It weighed 17 pounds, right? Yeah, this Flying V, okay, $400, and it's really good, but it's not that. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to tell you that that's as good as that, because it clearly isn't. It's good, but that's the problem. It's almost impossible to buy a bad guitar now. That's what kids are starting on now. Maybe the fixed bridge version of it, not the Floyd version, but that's what you get for $400. A slim taper neck, 24 frets, jumbo frets. The main difference is the quality of how the guitar is put together. Although there's some things I can gripe on this, not too much. With this, it's built down to price. But you got a maple neck and a maple fingerboard, which sounds good. Not basswood, but the poplar body. Poplar body isn't going to be a very good sounding guitar. It'll sound good enough. The Jackson high output pickups, they're okay, but they're not the Duncan SH distortions. So you're going to pay more for better stuff. So when people say it doesn't matter, your guitar doesn't matter, it does. It will. That will never give you what that gives you. Even if you only barely notice it in the mix. You know what I mean? Or you're playing live. When you play live with it, you'll definitely notice it. And if you spend enough time with a guitar, you'll definitely notice why this guitar is better than that guitar. You know what I mean? Oh, you're just trying to justify the money on it. Not necessarily. spend whatever you want to spend on a guitar, as long as it's serving the purpose you need it to do, right? If that's all you need, then that's all you need. The problem is, and it's a good problem, is that you can get good sounds out of that. Isn't that great? For $400, you can get something that sounds great. But what if you want phenomenal? Well, that you know what I mean? That's the thing. Like you got to pay that much more, but you're only going to maybe get about that much more. Well, the problem is it's like what Ingve said: more is more, better is better. So it doesn't matter if it's that much better. If it's better, it's better. You know what I mean? And once you got your um, your cabinet sorted out. This is something that Glenn's always talking. Like never mind buying guitars, buy a speaker. Okay, yeah, but what happens when you already have the speaker, right? What like something like that. Like for me, I want 5 more of those. 3 bottoms, 3 tops, just a big wall of me, because I think that would be the coolest amp setup ever. I don't know why Mesa Boogie doesn't make those. They make other vintage Mesa Boogies. Like they should have kept that cabinet line. They really should have. Just the look, everything. It's just the fact that it looks like a barbecue grill, like the barbecue grill thing is just killer. You know what I mean? But the speakers, and a lot of big cabinets now all have like vintage 30s in them. And I have nothing against the vintage 30s, but if you're going to pay $1,500 for a cabinet, you want something like that. You know what I mean? You might not be able to get that nowadays. Maybe you have to pay, $5,000 for that nowadays. I don't know. I'll have to shop around. But when it comes to the guitars, okay, like buying the next gear, like buying like 500 pedals. I'm one of those guys, simpler is better. And I've learned that live. I don't want a pedal board, a rack. I used to have rack systems, and that turned me off effect pedals altogether. Hence why I've been playing through the Fender Hot Rod Deluxe straight through with my SGs for the past probably, since pretty much 2005 when I bought that thing. That thing had effects built into it until now the effects button doesn't work on it. And I use that, straight into the amp. Okay, it's there. Because I used to have to fight for plugins on the stage when I had to plug in my pedal board, my wah pedal, although the wah pedal I could usually run off a battery, the pedal board, and then hook that into the rack, and then hook the rack into the power amp, which was the head, and then hook that into, suddenly you got like 50 cables running around the, you know what I mean? Now you want to do it all in one. And now the big thing is basically effects pedal power amps. It's all on the floor now. One thing. So that's something that to me is worth investing in. Rather than buying, 20 or 30 pedals, which cost you thousands of dollars to do that. Maybe spend $1,000 and just get it all built into one thing. Unless you have to have this specific thing or that specific thing. But that's to each individual. So buying as much equipment as you want is fine as long as you know what you're getting, right? But like when you look at some of the guys from the 80s and 90s, particularly in the late 80s, I would do it for time, where they had like the rack mounts. Basically, I remember one guy I got on stage with him. He had a rack mount the same size as the cabinet. It was the same height. And he just had the small cab. And he had another rack mount at home that went up to that guy's head. Like that. It was like 6 feet tall. And it was just, the Pro 21. I had the GFX 1 twin tubes, which had 7 effects of it, plus, EQing and all that. And it had 2 little AX12-7 tubes in it. And it sounded great. And whatever, and plug it through through the Randall head and through the Randall head directly into the PA. That sounded phenomenal. But this guy had everything: the Hush 2, the Pro 21, all those big rack effects, and you had 4 pedal boards, and it's just like, I'm like, dude, like how do you hook all that up? And it was always pre-hooked up on a road case, but it's like, oh, I need the reverb from this, effect, and I need the delay from that one, and the pitch harmonizer from that one, and then I need that digital tuner thing, and I'm like, Do you really need all that? You couldn't just live with one of them. Like the reverb was really so terrible on the Pro 21, and it wasn't. That was the whole thing. Like it was just like, right now what guys are using. Like if you saw what Dave Mustaine and Devin Townsend, Mark Holcomb, Satchel, I think has the best rig of anybody I've ever seen. It's like literally, it's a pedal board no bigger than this, and it's a power. Like he does. There's no amps on stage anymore. Like these pro guys, they've figured it out. They can fly around the world for a gig, okay, with a suitcase and a guitar. That's it. Could you imagine that? You don't. You know what I mean? Those are the guys that are going to make money. You know what I mean? How am I doing for time? Okay, going to part 4.